welcome to Health Talk. My name is Victor. I'm a graduate from UC San Diego and with a degree in human biology. Today we have with us Allison Rainey. She's a graduate from the University of Washington with a degree in political science, and she played Division I tennis. And we're here to talk about tennis injuries. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, when you were playing in college, tennis injuries are pretty common. Injuries in any sport really are pretty common. So, what kinds of injuries did you see, and especially playing at that level?
So there's an array of injuries that tennis players can suffer from, everything from just rolling your ankle or foot problems to shin splints. Knee issues can be a problem. You've seen that with Nadal.
Hmm.
Hamstring pulls, a lot of professional players have that taped up. Abdomen from overuse of the core, tennis elbow, rotator cuff. I mean, really anything on your body can break down after continued use.
Okay. So, did you ever experience anything like that? Any injuries that you've had to overcome?
So I was super fortunate in my entire playing days. I really never had an injury that put me out of playing for a significant amount of time.
That's really impressive. Was there anything specific that you did, like any specific training regimens or anything that your coach told you to do that you felt really kept you from, having any major injuries that kept you out of the game?
So in college, we had a team of people that worked with us, everyone from personal trainers to strength and fitness,
Okay.
yoga instructors, just doing a lot of preventative training. So strengthening the muscles around the shoulder, doing a lot of stretching, yoga to keep the core really strong.
Okay.
So just a lot of preventative work in the gym and then just overall fitness training to make sure our cardio level was up there.
Okay. Just making sure that that you, as an athlete, were strong and healthy and whatnot.
Hmm.
So I guess one of the most common injuries that the home audience has probably heard of is tennis elbow. And what do you know have anything to talk about tennis elbow? Like what might be the cause of tennis elbow, things like that, or have any of your teammates experienced tennis elbow?
So, not in college, but the most common time you see tennis elbow or hear about it a lot, it's kind of what we say the club player or the recreational player that plays casually for fun. A lot of it just comes down to poor form and using kind of overuse of the elbow or the arm, putting the strain on those muscles rather than really engaging the core and using your legs to produce power.
Okay.
Um,
So it's making sure that you're generating power the correct way versus, using your arms too much. And I've heard that tennis elbow especially is not just obviously for tennis players, but for anyone who's, using their arms too much.
mhm.
Somebody like a chef who's, at the counter, cutting things all day is really using their forearm a lot. So you get a lot of that, rubbing of that muscle in the forearm and the outer forearm along
Mhm.
the lateral epicondyle, right? And you have that inflammation. And I think, do you know about any treatments or anything like that?
I mean, the best thing I guess for any injury is rest. Of course, no athlete really wants to take time off, so a lot of times injuries just prolong themselves. People come back too soon and overuse it. But I mean, ice and then heat, kind of the contrast of that. Some people put on icy hot or some type of ointment to make it feel better, but nothing's going to get better until you just rest it.
Of course. So, and just generally just making sure that you take the proper time off after you get injured.
Hmm.
And so, when you were playing, did you ever have a teammate, I don't know, have to sit out for a certain amount of time? Like, did you have anybody who had any significant knee injuries or rolled their ankle really badly or had any
Hmm.
rotator cuff injuries?
So yeah, all 4 years of college, well, I had sprained ankle, so I guess I didn't really count that as an injury.
Okay.
But so I missed Pac-10s one year because I rolled my ankle.
Oh no.
But yeah, I mean, any given week, someone's out because of all the things we talked about. Their shoulder was bothering them from excessive serving or whatnot. I mean, pulled an oblique or something. Um, yeah, all we had a girl out entire season for shin splints.
Oh
So
wow. Do you know about like exactly what causes shin splints and how we should prevent how people can kind of prevent that injury? Is it just overuse? I mean, there's a lot of running in tennis, and you're back and forth. There's a lot of lateral motion.
mhm.
Is that a major contributor?
I mean, I don't even know. I guess why. I mean, maybe it's overuse. We did a ton of running as well, like a lot of sprints. And to your point, lateral movement. So, but she was out for the entire year, so it's pretty severe, or the
Oh
entire
wow.
tennis season. Well, she would come back, right, and it's too
Hmm.
painful, and then she'd have to stop again. So,
Okay, so definitely just I guess as you were saying before, a lot of really concentrating on that preventative aspect, training
hmm.
properly to build up your strength, um, and that lateral motion also puts a lot of strain on your knees, right?
Hmm.
Did you ever have? You said you didn't have any significant injuries, but did you ever have soreness in the knees?
Well, unfortunately, right now I have really bad my left knee,
Oh no!
so I can't play tennis now.
Oh no! Do you know if that might have been a result of just all that time you spent playing, or?
I mean, I really need to go to an orthopedic surgeon and have it checked out, but it's probably just overuse, right? When you play 6 hours every day since you're 5 years old. I mean,
5 years old. Wow.
yeah,
So
so
you've been playing much longer than just college and high school. So
yeah, so most tennis players start like 3, 4, 5 years old
okay.
playing every day. So
Oh wow.
it's a lot on your body,
Uh huh.
right? And there's no off season in tennis. It's not like the NBA or NFL where there's an off season, right? I mean, there's 4 Grand Slams a year, or even not even at the pro level, but at the competitive junior or college level, you play, fall, winter, spring, summer, no break from the tournament. So if there's tournaments, you're training full year.
Wow. So especially when you were that young, do you remember doing any special exercises? I mean, especially like when you were growing. Did you do anything in particular to keep yourself healthy and prevent those injuries, or do you remember anything?
When I was younger, I think it was just kind of lucky or fortunate your body bounces back. I mean, so I'd
Okay.
stretch and run, but I really didn't start taking really good care of my body until college when I had a team of people.
Okay.
Um,
So, especially if you're playing at a really high level, just having that support group behind you, your personal trainers, your physical therapists, and things like that, just to make sure that you were, physically fit and things like that, right?
we were very fortunate. Yeah, the University of Washington had a great team of people,
Okay.
so you have everyone you could ever need.
Okay. So, do you, as a team, did you ever have anything that you guys did like mentally to prepare for a game, or like if somebody was out for the season, like did that ever take a toll, like just kind of from a psychological standpoint, like oh, this is one of our star players, they're out just for this game, did you ever have encounter anything like that?
Um, so there's like a lot of sports psychology, and tennis is just really highly mental. A lot of people are equal playing ability or athleticism, talent. It just comes down to who's mentally stronger. So a lot of visualization before playing.
Okay.
Um, there's been a lot of studies showing that's really effective, just visualizing the match and everything ahead of time. I did a lot of, my dad's a psychologist, so I do breathing exercises
Okay.
to relax,
Okay.
muscle relaxation in tense situations.
All right. And those are, I mean, we had a show about this a couple week, like last time, and we talked about that as part of kind of de-stressing exercises.
Hmm.
Do you think that helps you de-stress just right before that game, like right before that key service, being able to kind of let go of whatever was bothering you and just really focus on that moment?
Yes, I'd always breathe and make sure my shoulders relax. You notice when people get nervous, they really tense up.
Yeah.
If you watch any pro athlete, sometimes you'll even notice their body gets a little tenser if you're very, like a really keen eye. So sometimes you'll see them just take a big sigh of relief and just let the shoulders relax down. Just your muscle. You don't want your muscles to be tense,
Yeah.
especially in tennis. You want to be kind of loosey goosey or really free flowing.
Okay. Yeah. So just being really limber and being
Hmm.
able to react to whatever gets served up, I guess.
Hmm.
So going back to some common injuries, so rotator cuff injuries are pretty common in tennis and other sports as well. Um, do you have any experience with that at all, or have you heard of
Fortunately,
people?
Fortunately, I never hurt my shoulder. I can't think of anyone on the team during my 4 years that had shoulder, but you would see it all the time going against other schools.
Mm-hmm.
People are always icing. I mean, Sharapova, probably most famously, if
Yeah.
anyone follows tennis, she's been plagued by the rotator cuff issue for probably the past, I don't know, maybe 3, 5 years. And the serve's really never the same after,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, after you break, tear, or whatever, well, especially after surgery, you're
Yes.
just never going to be able to have the same motion that you did before.
Yeah.
Um,
So a lot of that comes down to just proper strengthening of the shoulder muscle, that deltoid, and the back muscles, right?
And a lot of that too is preventative or the form of the serve. Some
Okay.
some people just don't have, if you want to call it correct technique or using the muscles in the right way, and then overuse of certain ligaments or whatnot, and all of a sudden, they're left with a useless shoulder.
Okay. So being trained from, like you said, the age of 5 to really properly use your muscle groups to generate that power versus compensating by overusing one muscle probably really helped in
Hmm.
preventing that serve that rotator cuff injury or potential rotator cuff injury for you. So
Hmm.
do you think that would you recommend that obviously any club player who's really serious about playing tennis, they get kind of mentorship or private instruction, somebody who can really work with them on that?
Yeah, so if a club player wants to play seriously and is going to play often, I definitely recommend some type of instruction with someone that's going to guide them to the correct form. So they don't need to aspire to be Roger Federer, obviously,
Yeah.
but I mean, you see, most people, the average person doesn't really know what correct form is, so to speak. But if you just go to a club, you see all sorts of strokes, and I can see tennis elbow or shoulder pain coming on, just because, to your point earlier, they're using other muscles to compensate for how the stroke. It should be effortless. Like
Okay.
Federer is a good example, but the instruction can kind of help you know how to hit the stroke and what body parts to be using and where you should feel strain, where you shouldn't feel strain.
Okay. So I've also heard that even if you do end up straining your muscle, like your shoulder, there's treatments available for that. There's things like cortisone injections that can
Mm-hmm.
help decrease the inflammation, and of course, like you said before, really taking time off to ice and rest. And like you said, people hate being out of the game, especially if they
Mm-hmm.
love playing tennis, but just really taking that time to rest and relax for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. So cortisone's one option. I mean, the problem with that is you don't feel pain, right? And then you play, and then all of a sudden it's worse after. So, I mean, a lot of times you see it in college, the pros, they just take a cortisone shot and then out they go, and then you're probably regretting it after.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I guess cortisone is kind of a band aid for that solution for
Mm-hmm.
that problem, and really trying to address the heart of it, and strengthening and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that there was another there's a girl on your team who pulled her oblique muscle during a serve, and can you talk a little bit about core strengthening and what kinds of things that you did in order to really strengthen up your core? You said how fundamental core
Mm-hmm.
strength is to tennis, and it really is to a lot of sports. So can you go over your training regimen, I guess?
So just a lot of ab workout. I mean, just your standard like planks or iso holds, everything from crunches, a lot of weighted ab exercises.
Mm-hmm.
We did yoga. I mean, I guess just kind of the Olympic lifting strengthens the core, or things on the stability ball or the
Okay.
using medicine balls. So, I mean, yeah, everything possible to just make your core as strong as possible.
Okay, could you go into a little bit more about Olympic lifting for our viewers who might not be as familiar with that style of lifting?
So, just in the off season, we would do things like deadlifts, squats. Um, I'm blanking on the other thing where you lift it over your head.
Oh, military presses.
Yeah, so I mean, just everything. Only in the off season though, because in tennis you don't really see bulky
Mm-hmm.
people. But you just want to make sure you do have some muscle base, and then while you're playing kind of the tournament, maybe just lighter weights but more repetitions
Okay.
of any type of weighted exercises in the gym.
And of course, when you were doing those Olympic lifts, I mean, when I'm at the gym, I see guys doing deadlifts, 400 or 500 pounds, just making sure that, that you've had a trainer or some sort of instruction, to properly be able to manage that weight,
Hmm.
just so that, you don't pull your back or, get injured
Hmm.
while you're trying to, do your preventative exercises, because that's the whole point of doing them, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so we had a strength coach just for the tennis team, and we went over proper form all the time, or
Okay.
constantly being monitored. But to your point, you don't want to hurt your back while you're trying to quote unquote get fit or strong.
Yeah.
So that was big too. Just how you're doing the deadlifts, how you're doing the press and cleans, or
Okay. And then I guess moving down the body, we covered tennis elbow, the shoulder, any core injuries, um, like lower leg injuries. A common one is a pulled hamstring. I mean,
hmm.
do you have any experience with that or?
Fortunately, I didn't, but I'm sure if you ever watched TV, I mean tennis on TV with the Grand Slams, you see people with the taped on the
Okay.
hamstring. So that can be common just because tennis you're sprinting so often,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it can just be one little sprint the wrong way, or maybe you're really tight, you're starting to cramp, and you go for a ball, and it can pull. So that happens to a lot of professionals.
Okay. And that tape, I've started to see a lot on runners, especially
Hmm.
people using that KT tape on
Hmm.
their knees and their hamstrings. Is that just a method of stabilizing that muscle, or just are you
I
familiar with that?
I know what you mean. I had a girl, a friend in college that had pulled like a hip flexor and had the tape on for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, I thought for some reason it added warmth. I don't know if I'm making that up, but there's something,
Okay.
or was some type of tape where it will add heat too, just to kind of warm up the muscle.
Just to make it a little more comfortable and
Hmm.
make it cramp less while you're playing.
Hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. And then you said you rolled your ankle, and what exactly did you do to bring yourself back from that? You said you were out for an entire
Well, I
winter.
missed Pac-10,
Oh
so
yeah.
before NCAA's. Well, actually, I rolled my ankle a few times. So you see a lot of players that tape up their ankles before they played. Like Andy Roddick always wore taped ankles and braces. I think Andy Murray might or used to. Um, but rolling your ankle is so common because you're running up to the ball, you
Hmm.
stop. It's so easy to just flip it. But I just iced with a rolled ankle. You really can't play if it's sprained to the point where it's bad. So I had to take maybe 6, 8 weeks off. I think I rolled it 3 times.
Oh wow. And
Mm.
did that develop into a sprain, or did you actually sprain it where you kind of had bruising and?
Like it was black and blue. It was so big it wouldn't fit into a shoe. I
Okay.
I did it at Pac-10s on day one, and flying home, I couldn't even get my shoe or my foot into any shoe.
Okay. Wow.
So super swollen.
Wow. So for our viewers at home, there's a few different levels of sprains. There's like the level one where it's kind of just you rolled your ankle. That probably happens when you step off of a curb wrong or something like that. And there's level two where there's some tearing and some bruising and some swelling. And there's level three which you may have had where it's almost a complete tear, like almost a rupture of that um, tendon or ligament, and it's really swollen. So
Well, yeah. Actually, what happened is I was like this, and then I just fell. So, well, we considered doing surgery to getting a screw
oh wow.
in. So, I guess this was kind of an injury. So, I was in a boot, a whole, like the
Okay.
black cast boot.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so I was off my foot for a long time. Oh, actually, I did. I broke my metatarsal fifth. I forgot.
Oh, okay.
And I was stress fracture in my right foot.
Oh, so that stress fracture in the right foot, was that just from lots of running, or?
That was overuse. So that I completely forgot about that. I didn't play my sophomore year of college. That was just completely example of overuse. So it was in pain for a long, long time, and I would say, "Oh, my foot's bothering me," and then we just did an X-ray, not even like a scan or anything, and you
Yeah.
could see the bone was broken. And then we obviously did a further scan, and sure enough, it was broken.
And what did you have done to treat that? Did you just stay off of it for a year and then just let it heal on its own, or was there any
Well, that would
surgery?
be the smart thing to do, right? No, but I trained. I mean, I didn't play tennis, but I trained the whole time.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
in a, I had the boot. I'm sure people have seen it. The black boot where
Yep,
it
yep.
velcros. So I did one leg squats, one leg everything, a lot of biking. So I trained the whole time. That was actually very painful.
I can imagine.
I completely forgot that that happened.
Wow. Yeah, so stress fractures are pretty common injuries for not just tennis players, but a lot of runners.
Hmm.
Just improper form, and especially when you're running, because I run kind of on the side. And I had a friend who switched his type of shoe, so he was wearing a very cushioned sole, and he tried to go the more minimalist. He wore a pair of Vibrams, those five finger shoes
Oh
that everybody
yeah.
talks about, and the style of running is very different. So he was cushioning every single step differently,
Mm.
which caused that strain on that metatarsal. I think it was in his first or second,
Mm.
and he ended up having a stress fracture, and he couldn't run a couple races with me. So that's a pretty common injury, and I think he just let it rest and iced it and let it heal on its own. But did your metatarsal eventually just heal on its own, or?
Yes. So I took that entire sophomore season off, actually.
Okay.
Um, that's how much I remember college. I completely forgot that happened. But see, the problem with tennis is that you never really rest. That was a
Okay.
perfect example of never really resting, and then just because the fall you have individual season, and then
Hmm.
winter, spring you go into team and NCAA. So no one really wants to take that time off. So in theory, had I rested it maybe for 8 weeks or 12 weeks, it might have been better. But I trained the whole time through that injury.
Does it still bother you now, or you feel like
No,
it's okay?
my foot, but both my ankles just feel weak in general from the rolling, just
Oh yeah.
sprains or rolling.
So they've never quite bounced back.
Yeah, I don't feel like they're as strong. See, but I'm not sprinting as much or doing intensive I mean, I just play recreational once or twice a week. So.
Okay. But just making sure that you really take that time to rest. I mean, most of the viewers who are club players or recreational players, weekend warriors, that kind of player, aren't gonna really be gunning for that championship or anything like that. So
Mhm.
having the time to rest, ice, consult their physician or
Mhm.
trainer or whoever to really get it trained back up properly, right?
Well, there's a lot of rehab for the your ankle. Like even
Okay.
just doing the ABCs in the air with your
Oh,
toes
really?
can strengthen it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Doing circles on a barrel of rice.
In a barrel of rice?
It's kind of resistance, right? And then
Oh,
just
okay.
trying to swirl your ankle around.
Oh, okay. I'd never heard of that. That's
So
very
if you've ever
interesting.
sprained your ankle and you try and draw the ABCs with your ankle,
Uh-huh.
it's a real workout.
Oh, I'll try that next time. I sprained my ankle one time really badly when I was playing volleyball with a couple of friends, and pretty much I just rested, iced, and had it immobilized for some period of time before
Mm.
it kind of the swelling came back down.
Mm-hmm.
Took a few NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and things like that. Okay. So overall, what would you tell the home audience? Just kind of a summary
For tennis injuries
for
and
tennis
everything.
injuries and prevention, and I guess also what kind of psychological sports psychology exercises they could do to maybe improve their game or kind of get them out of a rut.
Well, in terms of just injury prevention is obviously key. So just warming up your body, like doing 5 or 10 minutes of elliptical or some type of cardio before, get your heartbeat up. Stretching, make sure all your body parts are warm. It's something I don't do now, and probably I don't know, maybe led to my knee injury. But just doing the stretches, make sure jumping rope or jumping jacks, get a little sweat going before you're playing.
Okay.
Prior to that, just I mean, you don't need to be in the gym lifting weights all the time, but just little shoulder exercises with 5 or 8 pound weights of resistance to build up all the muscles around your shoulder.
To prevent those rotator cuff injuries we talked
Yeah,
about earlier.
with serving. When you maybe get a private lesson here or there, just to make sure you're on your forehand backhand form is looking good, so you're not hurting your elbow. Um, in terms of psychology, just having fun, especially if it's a recreational thing. At the end of the day, you just want to enjoy the game. You see a lot of tennis players like McEnroe, for example, they can get really frustrated or kind of
Okay, yeah, you don't want to be breaking your tennis racket on the
yeah,
court, especially if you're a club player.
try to avoid kind of negative self-talk. Just have fun, breathe, relax, make sure your shoulders are always loose and down. You don't want them up by your ears.
Okay. All right, and then you said some things about visualization exercises. So
Hmm.
somebody who's, I guess, the club player trying to take their game to the next level. What do you mean by visualization exercises?
So I would play a full match the night before, like literally take 2.5, 3 hours, however long I thought that match was going to go.
Uh-huh.
And I would always, of course, imagine myself winning. You want to have a positive
Of course.
outlook, but I would imagine the stands. If I'd been to that facility or the university before, I'd imagine the stands, the fans there if they're going to be an away team. Obviously, they're cheering against you.
Yep.
Everything from how the benches would look, and I would play every single point, like first and second serve, and like I'd play a 6-3, 4-6, 7-5 match in my head. So maybe the average player is not going to do that, but every single match I played in college, I played the night before in
So,
my head.
so you would just actually just play everything in your head.
Yeah, so I'd go into like a very quiet room,
Okay.
dark, close my eyes, but you have to really take time. I mean, meditation in itself is really hard, right? Most
Mm-hmm.
people can't do this. So you have to really take the time to think about it. I would do the breathing. I would tense up my body, get really nervous,
Okay.
just like you would in a match, right?
Uh-huh.
And then relax. So, but even if someone did that for 5 or 10 minutes, just imagine yourself playing. There are psychologists that say it will help you the day after.
Oh wow. Okay. So you were talking about meditation and breathing. I guess could you go a little bit into like how you really prep yourself for that? I mean like, so you said go into a dark room, really concentrate on
Hmm.
your breathing, really think about that. Was there anything in particular that you focused on, like serves, or just or like any particular thing that you knew you were weak on? Was that
I would
you
really
really
just
focused
try.
on?
I mean, obviously, I know how I felt in every prior match, so I would just I mean, controlling your mental state is very hard. I mean, regard tennis injuries or whatever, I think it's one of the hardest things to do. But just try and block everything out and just think about that moment and try and get yourself kind of into the zone, so to speak.
Okay.
Because in tennis, maybe the average person doesn't notice, but like Serena Williams is a great example. Sometimes she'll be playing a great match and then kind of just checks out, right, or loses a few games. And then she's so talented, she can come back and rally off the next 4 or 5 games.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you'll see players that are quote unquote better than their opponent lose games just because they're not in the zone or
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
focused. So if you can try and prepare yourself and imagine how it feels and just get used to being in the zone, because in basketball or football, a team sport, it's okay if you check out
Mm-hmm.
because you have 5 or whatever, 10 other people on the field or court to help you. In tennis, if you check out, that it's you and only you. There's no one else to be mentally sharp. So it really is exhausting to be mentally sharp for 2, 3 hours at a time.
Yeah,
Week after week
of
after
course.
week. So.
And did you or any of your teammates ever kind of go into a rut of losses? I know that's something that's really common in individual sports. Is you'll lose one match and then it'll be really discouraging and you'll get hard on yourself and then all of a sudden you find yourself losing match after match after match. I mean, just not being able to get yourself back to where you were.
Hmm.
Do you have any suggestions as to what somebody who's going through that might be able to do?
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, I had times in college where I go through a rut. Um, I mean, really, it's just stopping and let's say you're like starting to fall down a staircase. You don't want to just throw yourself down the rest of them. It's
Of
almost like
course.
stopping and kind of evaluating. Why did I lose those matches? Was the person better than me? Was it technique? Was I not mentally fit, so to speak? Was it my diet? Or really evaluate why you lost, and then try and take steps to change whatever was causing the losses. But not to get negative, just because tennis is so mental, it goes back to you can't go in expecting to lose. You have to be really positive, and every time you step on the court, you have to think. No matter if you're playing Roger Federer or a beginner, you have to think you're going to win. So.
So, all right. I mean, just really focusing on that visualization and staying positive, even
Hmm.
no matter how hard it is. I mean, and daily stressors in your life can really get to that. Did you have any trouble balancing that school and work and school and tennis, especially while you're in college?
So that's a really interesting point that a lot of people don't appreciate the student athlete lifestyle. So we're full time athletes, right? We're training minimum 20 hours a week, more like 40 if you really want to, take what an NCAA athlete at a Division I school, especially like the University of Washington, Pac-10. And also, you're a full time student at, a demanding or rigorous school. And um, I really took school seriously. I was an academic scholar
Of
and,
course.
had every accolade possible that you could get. So I really did prioritize school. If it was, I was a student, then I was an athlete. So classes came first, grades came first. Unfortunately, now I have a great career and had the opportunity to do like postgraduate scholarships because I focused on school. Most athletes probably can't say the same, right? They put athletics was the precedent, and I mean the graduation rate is not the highest
Yeah.
for student athletes. So.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your successful career, and we have a couple more minutes left. So just to wrap up and just to sum up the show, to prevent injuries, just make sure that I guess you're really well warmed up and that you really work in the off season, or maybe for people who don't have an off season, just maintaining that base level of physical fitness and that musculature, and also especially during the game, staying positive and visualization exercises and things like that. Right? Anything
Hmm.
else that you might want to add that I missed?
That's good. Yeah, I mean prevention, staying positive, keeping fit, good form.
Okay. And for all you club players out there, if you are looking for to better your tennis form, go ahead and have some private instruction. And if you have any injuries, go ahead and consult your physician or orthopedic surgeon. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Allison. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
have fun playing tennis.